The girl who kills with a touch. In the darkest part of the alien prison, deep underground, there was a room with no light, no guards, and no sound. Inside that room sat a girl. Her name was Velra. She looked young, maybe 17, but no one really knew her age. Her long black hair fell over her shoulders. Her skin had a strange glow, almost like silver under moonlight. She never spoke. She never moved. She just sat there, alone. But there was a reason for that. Anyone who touched her died. The aliens called her the Black Plague. Others called her the Death Girl. Some even believed she was a curse from the stars. No matter who it was, soldiers, doctors, machines, if they touched her skin, they dropped dead. It didn't matter if they were strong, fast, or smart. She never fought. She never screamed. She didn't have to. Her touch did the killing. One alien scientist once said, "She is not a weapon. She is death itself." That scientist died one day later. He accidentally brushed against her arm. Since then, no one came near her. They only watched from cameras, fed her with machines, studied her from behind thick glass, but they never touched her. And so, Velra sat, day after day, year after year, in silence, until one day, something changed. Two guards dragged a man into the room. He was human. Blood on his shirt, dirt on his face, hands tied behind his back. He looked confused. They pushed him inside and locked the door behind him. The room was dark and cold. The man looked around. He saw Velra in the corner. "Hello," he said. She didn't reply. He stepped forward. "I'm Eli. I'm not here to hurt you." Still, she didn't answer. Eli sat on the floor, far from her. His arms hurt from the tight ropes. He took a deep breath. "This must be a mistake," he whispered. "I didn't do anything wrong." Velra slowly looked up. Her eyes were strange, deep purple, like the sky before a storm. She spoke for the first time in years. Her voice was soft. "You should stay away." Eli blinked. "Why?" "Because," she said, "if you touch me, you'll die." He laughed a little. "Is that a joke?" She shook her head. "Everyone who touches me dies. You will too." Eli didn't believe it. He thought she was just trying to scare him. "You don't look dangerous," he said. "You look lonely." Velra said nothing. Time passed. The room stayed quiet. Then Eli tried to stand up. His balance was weak. He fell, right toward Velra. She shouted, "No," but it was too late. His hand touched hers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, still nothing. Eli looked confused. Velra looked shocked. "You touched me," she said. "Yeah," Eli replied. "And I'm fine." Velra stared at her hand, then at him. "No one has ever touched me and lived," she said, her voice shaking. "Why didn't you die?" Eli didn't have an answer. He looked just as confused. Outside the cell, alarms started to ring. The alien guards sought everything through the cameras. Scientists shouted orders. Sirens echoed through the prison halls. "He touched her," one alien screamed. "And he's still alive." Inside the room, Velra backed away from Eli. Her heart was racing. She felt something strange, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Eli looked at her, calm and kind. "Maybe I'm just lucky," he said with a smile. Velra smiled back, but only a little. Then the door slammed open. Bright lights filled the room. Alien soldiers rushed in with weapons aimed. A tall alien in a white coat pointed at Eli. "Take the human," he shouted. "He is the key." Velra stepped in front of Eli. "No," she said, but they pushed her aside. Eli struggled. "Let go of me." Velra screamed, "Don't touch him." But it was no use. They dragged Eli out of the room. As the door closed, Velra ran toward it and placed her hand on the metal. For the first time in years, she felt fear. Not for herself, but for him. The only one who ever touched her and lived. Why didn't he die? The doors slammed shut. Velra was alone again. But something inside her had changed. For years, she had lived in silence. No sound, no touch, no hope. Everyone who touched her died. That was the rule. That was her curse. She had killed more people than she could remember, without ever meaning to. But now, a human had touched her, and he lived. His name was Eli. And the moment his hand touched hers, something inside Velra cracked open. A small, quiet feeling she didn't recognize at first. Not fear, not pain. It was warmth. She sat on the cold floor, her silver glowing fingers still trembling. Why didn't he die? Why didn't he scream like the others? Why did he smile? Somewhere far above her, in the top floor of the alien science tower, red lights flashed. Alarms echoed through every hallway. Scientists ran in panic, yelling in different alien languages. He survived contact with the subject. He's not infected. Run full scans. We need to study him. Inside a bright lab, Eli lay tied to a table. Machines buzzed around him. Needles poked his arms. Blue lights scanned his body. "Hey, what is this place?" he shouted. "Where's the girl?" But no one answered him. They were too busy, too excited. One alien leaned closer and whispered, "You touched her, and you didn't die. Do you know what that means?" "No," Eli said, frowning, "but I'm starting to think I should have." The alien grinned. "You may have just changed the galaxy." Back in the cell, Velra stood up slowly. Her knees felt weak. Her body was shaking. She had never felt this way before. Was she sick? No, she couldn't get sick. Was it fear? No, she didn't fear death. Not hers. Not anyone's. Then she realized it. She was worried about someone else. She was worried about Eli. That had never happened before. She walked to the wall and placed her hand on it. The cold metal usually stayed silent. But this time, she felt something move. Not outside. Inside her. A strange pulse. A heartbeat that wasn't hers. A signal. Soft, gentle, connected. Was it Eli? In the lab, scientists whispered. He didn't die. Why? His DNA is strange, different from other humans. No, it's not his DNA. It's something deeper. A tall alien leader entered the room. His skin was dark green. His eyes glowed red. "I want answers," he growled. "Now." One scientist pointed to a screen. "We think her power is triggered by fear, by pain, by the body's reaction to her energy. Everyone who touches her panics. Their minds can't handle it. But this human, he was calm." The leader frowned. So his emotions saved him. Maybe. Or maybe she chose not to kill him. The room went quiet. Then the leader whispered, "If she can choose, she can be controlled." Velra paced in the cell. Her mind raced. Why did he live? Why didn't I feel the usual surge of death energy? Why do I care? She remembered the look in his eyes. He wasn't scared. He was kind, curious, maybe even a little foolish. But for the first time in her life, someone looked at her not like a weapon, but like a person. That made something bloom inside her. She pressed her hand to the wall again. "Eli," she whispered, "please be okay." Eli groaned on the table. His head hurt. His wrists were sore from the ropes. One small alien assistant came close and said quietly, "You shouldn't have touched her. You'll regret it." Eli stared. "Why?" "She didn't do anything. She warned me. I didn't listen." The alien tilted its head. "You don't fear her?" "No," Eli said. "She's just a girl." That shocked the alien. "She's killed thousands." "She didn't choose that," Eli said. "You people locked her in a cage, treated her like a bomb." The alien didn't reply. It just looked confused. No one had ever defended Velra before. Hours passed. Velra sat in the dark, staring at the door. She didn't feel deadly. She felt broken. Then, without warning, she screamed, loud, sharp, full of pain. "Bring him back!" The lights in the cell flickered. The cameras outside the room burst. The walls began to shake. Across the prison, lights shut off. Power failed. Scientists screamed. Doors unlocked. She wasn't screaming with fear anymore. She was calling. In the lab, the leader turned toward the door. "What's happening?" he demanded. Then came a voice, echoing through every speaker. A voice that didn't belong to a machine. It was Velra. "Give him back to me," she said. The walls cracked. The machines sparked. Eli smiled a little. "She's coming," he whispered. "The escape begins." The walls were shaking. The lights inside the alien prison blinked on and off like a dying star. Sirens screamed. Doors slammed open. Sparks rained from the ceilings. But deep inside the science tower, where no one was supposed to escape, one girl was no longer silent. Velra was awake, and she was angry. For the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of what her powers might do. She wasn't trying to stay still, trying to protect others by hiding. This time, she wanted her powers to be seen, felt, feared, because they had taken Eli, and they were hurting him. In the cold white lab above, Eli coughed as smoke filled the air. Machines around him were exploding. Energy panels cracked and burst. Scientists scrambled to escape. One of the aliens shouted, "She's breaking the prison from the inside." The lead commander turned pale. "She's never done this before." "She's never felt this before," another whispered. The guards aimed their weapons at Eli, panic in their eyes. "Shut him down. If we kill him, maybe she'll stop." But before they could fire, the lab door blew apart. A wave of dark energy swept through the hallway like a storm. Glass shattered. Lights popped. Walls groaned. And then, she stepped inside. Velra. Her silver skin glowed brighter than ever. Her hair floated around her like she was underwater. Her eyes were glowing, but not with anger. With purpose. She looked straight at Eli. He was strapped to a table, blood on his shirt, but his eyes were wide with wonder. "You came," he whispered. She nodded once. "You are mine to protect." The guards didn't wait. They opened fire. Blue energy blasts streaked across the room, screaming through the air. But none of them hit her. Every bolt stopped just before touching her skin. They dissolved into sparks, like fireflies caught in a wind tunnel. Velra raised one hand. The entire room tilted. Gravity seemed to flip. The guards crashed into the ceiling. The machines melted. The glass turned to dust. She walked forward without blinking. Every step she took, the ground bent. Every breath she made, the air trembled. She wasn't just a prisoner anymore. She was a force. The commander reached for the emergency kill switch. "If we can't stop her, we'll destroy her." But before he could press it, Velra appeared right in front of him. Without touching him, she spoke. "Don't." And his body dropped, still breathing, but unconscious. She turned to Eli. He was smiling through the pain. "You really came," he said again. Velra placed her hand over the metal straps, holding him down. They melted away instantly, leaving no burns, no scars. He sat up slowly, holding his side. "You look different," he said. "I feel different," she replied. Eli laughed, weakly. "Remind me never to make you angry." Together, they moved through the broken hallways. Alarms still screamed, but the guards were running in the other direction. No one wanted to face her now. They passed cells where other prisoners stared in shock. A few aliens whispered her name. "The Death Girl has risen." But she didn't look at them. Her eyes were only on Eli. He leaned on her shoulder, limping slightly. "You didn't have to come for me," he said. She looked at him and replied, "No one ever came for me. But you did. I won't forget that." They reached the outer gate. It was sealed shut, 10 feet thick, made of a rare metal said to be unbreakable. Eli winced. "Guess we're stuck." Velra tilted her head. "Not anymore." She placed her hand on the gate. It didn't explode. It didn't melt. Instead, it bloomed. The metal softened like flower petals opening to the sun. The giant door slid away without a sound. Behind it stood dozens of alien guards, but none of them moved. They looked at her and stepped back. Some dropped their weapons. Others dropped to their knees. "She is not a weapon," one whispered. "She is something else." Outside, the stars shone bright. A desert stretched before them. Cold, black sand under twin moons. Eli took a deep breath of the free air. Velra looked up. Her eyes were wide. She had never seen the sky before. Not since she was a child. She walked forward, her bare feet touching real ground. "This is," she whispered, "beautiful." Eli nodded. "You've never been outside." She shook her head. "Then this," he said, "is your first step into the real universe." But far above them, in a hidden control room, a tall alien general watched them on a screen. His face was calm, but his eyes were full of fear. "They're together now," he said. "And she listens to him." A smaller alien asked, "What do we do?" The general stared at the stars beyond the window. "We hunt them," he said coldly, "before the galaxy sees what they really are." Back on the desert floor, Velra turned to Eli. "They will come for us." "I know," he said. She stepped closer. "I will fight them. I will keep you safe." Eli smiled. "And I'll keep reminding you that you're not just a weapon." She looked at him. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then she asked softly, "Eli, why didn't you die?" He didn't answer right away. He just reached out and gently held her hand. "No idea," he said, "but I'm glad I didn't." The hunt for the human. The stars were not quiet anymore. They buzzed with messages, warnings, and fear. Across distant galaxies, ships lit up their emergency beacons. Space stations changed their codes. News screens flashed one message over and over again. "The human Tuchi the death girl, and Live. Inside a golden chamber on a rich alien world, a tall being with a diamond crown stood watching the news. His face was calm, but his claws tapped the armrest. "She has escaped," he said softly. "And now, she has a guide." A servant bowed low. "What should we do, High Commander?" The crowned alien narrowed his eyes. "Begin the hunt." Eli and Velra were hiding inside an old cargo ship. It was slow, broken, and ugly, but it could fly. Eli was fixing the engine while Velra watched the stars through a round window. "Do you think they're still following us?" she asked. Eli wiped oil from his hands. "Definitely." "Why?" He sat beside her. "Because you scare them. You're something they don't understand." Velra looked down. "I never wanted to scare anyone." "I know," Eli said. "But sometimes, people fear what they can't control." He paused, then added, "And right now, they can't control you." Elsewhere, in the dark corners of space, ships were rising. Assassins, hunters, spies. They were not sent to capture Velra. They were sent to end her. But every order had the same warning written in red. "Do not let the human live. He is the key." Inside the ship, Velra studied her reflection in a broken mirror. She didn't look like a monster. Her face was soft, almost human. But her glowing eyes, her shining skin, they reminded her she was different. Eli stepped behind her. "You okay?" "I don't know what I am," she said quietly. "I was born to destroy." He shook his head. "No, you were made to destroy. That's not the same." She turned to him. "What if I lose control again?" "Then I'll be there to stop you," he said, "or remind you who you are." Velra stared at him. "Why do you trust me?" "Because," Eli said, "you could have killed me 100 times by now. And you didn't." Suddenly, the ship's warning lights flashed. Red. Flashing. Loud. "Someone's found us," Eli said, running to the controls. A screen blinked. 3 enemy ships. Moving fast. Velra stood beside him. "We can't outrun them." "I know," he said, "but maybe we don't have to." She looked at him, confused. He smiled. "You're the most dangerous being in the galaxy." Velra sighed. "I don't want to be dangerous." "I know," he said, "but right now, it might save us both." The ships attacked fast. Lasers lit the sky. The cargo ship shook. Inside, Velra stood at the center of the room. Her hands glowed. Her body hummed with power. But she was calm. She wasn't angry this time. She was focused. Eli shouted, "They're trying to board us." Velra closed her eyes. "Let them try." The enemy ship connected. The door hissed open. 6 armored aliens rushed in with weapons. They raised their blasters. And then froze. Velra didn't even touch them. She just looked at them. Their weapons melted in their hands. Their armor cracked. They fell to their knees, gasping. One whispered, "What are you?" Velra stepped forward. "I am not your enemy," she said, "but I will not let you hurt him." The invaders crawled back toward their ship. They didn't even try to fight. They just ran. Back in the pilot chair, Eli was watching. He'd seen violence before. He'd seen war. But this wasn't war. This was power without hate. She didn't kill them. She just stopped them, with control, with precision, with mercy. He said softly, "They're right to be scared, but not because you're evil." Velra turned. "Then why?" Eli smiled. "Because you're stronger than them, and still kinder." Across the stars, news of the failed attack spread fast. More bounty hunters joined the chase. Some wanted money. Others wanted glory. But one powerful voice spoke louder than them all. A message sent across all systems. "The girl and the human are a threat to order. Bring them to me, dead or alive." It came from the Empress of Glass, a cold, cruel leader who once destroyed an entire planet just to test a new weapon. She feared Velra more than anyone, not because Velra could kill, but because Velra had changed. And change was dangerous. Inside their ship, Velra and Eli found an old radio. Static crackled. Then they heard it. A voice. Soft, female, robotic. "Velra, this is Unit 9. Protocol 0. Do you hear me?" Velra's eyes went wide. That voice. I remember it. Eli leaned closer. "Who is it?" Velra touched the speaker. "It's from the lab where I was made." The voice continued. "You were not meant to feel. You were not meant to choose. But your bond with the human has rewritten your design." Eli frowned. "What does that mean?" Velra's hands shook. "I wasn't supposed to survive this long. I was a prototype." Eli looked at her, shocked. "You mean there could be more like you?" Velra nodded. "Or they might be building something worse." Eli stood up. "Then we need to find them first." Velra looked uncertain. "Do you trust me?" he asked. She smiled. "More than I've ever trusted anyone." Far away, in the Empress's war room, a giant hologram showed their ship. A general bowed. "They're heading toward the ruins of Station 9. The Empress narrowed her eyes. "Let them go," she said. "Let them learn the truth. It will break them." Then she smiled coldly. "And when they are broken, bring me their remains." She's not what they made her to be. The ship drifted toward a dead world. Below them was nothing but ashes, broken metal, and shattered towers. Station 9, once the most advanced science hub in the galaxy, was now a silent graveyard floating in space. No lights, no signals, just wreckage. Eli sat at the control panel, guiding their small ship gently through the fog of ruined satellites. Velora stood at the window, eyes wide. "I know this place," she said quietly. "I've seen it. In dreams." "You were made here?" Eli asked. Velora nodded. "I think so. I don't remember being born. I just remember waking up. In a tank." The ship landed on a metal platform covered in dust. When the door opened, the air smelled like rust and silence. The ground was cracked. The buildings were torn apart like paper. Long cables floated through the air like ghost arms. They stepped out together. Eli held a small blaster, just in case. Velora didn't carry anything. She didn't need to. As they walked through the ruins, old machines sparked to life, one by one. Velora didn't touch them. They just responded. A broken drone blinked. A security door opened with a sigh. Lights flickered on as she passed. "It's like they remember you," Eli said. "They do," Velora whispered, "because I was made from them." Deep inside the station, they found a lab. It was still running. Barely. Dust covered the glass. The screens were cracked. But one large pod in the center glowed with blue light. Velora walked toward it. Her hand touched the glass. Suddenly, the lab came alive. A soft voice echoed from the speakers. "Welcome back, Subject V01. Eli stepped forward. "Who's speaking?" The voice replied. "I am the last active protocol of Station 9. My name is ALMA. I am here to guide Subject V01 to her final stage." Velora looked confused. "Final stage?" "Yes, you are incomplete, but the human has changed your core." Eli frowned. "What does that mean?" Subject V01 was never meant to feel. She was built to destroy. A living weapon. Designed to end wars in seconds. But emotional contact with the human rewrote her purpose. Velora took a step back. "So, I'm not a person. You are more than a person. You are a bridge. Half technology, half organic, pure thought, pure energy. And now, thanks to him, you have become something new." Eli stared at Velora. She looked afraid, not of others, but of herself. "I don't want to be a weapon," she whispered. "You're not," Eli said. "Not anymore." But Velora shook her head. "If I was built to kill, what happens if I lose control again?" Eli stepped closer. "Then I'll be there to remind you." Suddenly, the room grew cold. A second voice entered the lab. Dark, sharp, cruel. "That won't be necessary." They turned. A hologram shimmered in the air. It was the Empress of Glass. Her silver mask hid her face. Her voice echoed like a broken bell. "You've learned your truth, little creation. Now what will you do with it?" Velora stood tall. "I'm not yours to command. You are a tool, nothing more." "No," Velora said. "I choose who I am." The Empress laughed. "Do you think feelings make you powerful? They make you weak. You could have ruled galaxies, but you fell in love with a human. How pathetic." Velora's eyes burned. "Say what you want. I'd rather feel pain than be your slave." Suddenly, alarms blared. The station shook. The Empress had sent a fleet. A giant shadow passed over the windows. Massive ships armed with energy weapons. They weren't here to capture her. They were here to erase her. ALNA's voice spoke again. "The station has been targeted. You must leave now." But Velora didn't move. She stared at the glass pod. "Can I finish my transformation?" "Yes, but it will take time." "How much?" 2 minutes. Eli grabbed her hand. "I'll buy you 2 minutes." Outside, the sky was fire. Eli ran back to the ship, jumped into the pilot's seat, and powered up the defense shields. The enemy ships began to charge their weapons. Missiles launched. Velora stood inside the lab, eyes closed, as the final code activated in her mind. Her body began to shift, gently. Not into something bigger or scarier, but into something brighter. Her hair floated. Her skin turned into light. Her heartbeat slowed. She wasn't just made to destroy. She was now learning to create. Outside, Ely's ship shook as missiles hit the shields. He fired back, aiming for engines, not cockpits. He didn't want to kill. He just wanted time. "Come on, Velra," he whispered. "Come back to me." In the lab, Velra opened her eyes. The pod melted around her. She stepped forward. She was glowing, but not with death, with life. She was no longer just a girl with deadly skin. She was energy, light, feeling, and choice. She walked outside. The enemies saw her and fired again. But the blasts didn't hit. They stopped mid-air like frozen rain. Velra lifted her hands. The enemy weapons melted. Not exploded, not destroyed. Transformed into stardust. She looked at Ely. "I'm ready." He smiled. "You're not what they made you to be." Far above, the Empress watched in silence. "She is dangerous," one of her generals whispered. "No," the Empress said slowly. "She is impossible." Ely and Velra escaped the broken station, flying into the stars. They didn't know what would come next. They didn't know how many more would hunt them. But for the first time, they weren't running. They were moving forward. Together. The final battle. The stars were not peaceful anymore. They burned with tension. Every ship, every station, every empire in the galaxy was watching one moment. One girl. Velra. The girl who was made to kill. The girl who was touched by a human and didn't kill him. The girl who changed. And now, the girl who refused to run. 100 warships surrounded them. Ely's small cargo ship floated in the center of a red nebula. On every screen inside the ship, enemy warnings flashed. "Surrender the human. Deactivate Intaitu. UAV 10 minutis." Ely stood at the window, watching the storm gather. Lasers powered up. Warheads blinked red. Fighters circled them like hungry wolves. He looked at Velra. She wasn't afraid. She stood still, her body glowing softly, her silver eyes calm. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said. "I know," Ely replied, "but they think you're here to destroy them." Velra shook her head. "I'm not. I'm here to stop the cycle." Ely stepped closer. "Then how do we do that? Without war?" Velra looked out at the enemy fleet. She saw fear in every signal, anger in every move, hate in every heartbeat. But behind it all, she also felt confusion. They didn't understand her. They didn't want to understand. So she decided to show them. She walked to the ship's main panel. "Open the doors," she said. Ely hesitated. "You'll be exposed." "I need to be." He nodded slowly and pressed the button. The cargo bay doors opened. Velra stepped out, floating in space. No suit, no shield. Just her. Her light wrapped around her like a second skin. She moved forward into the void. Alone. The fleets locked onto her. Dozens of generals shouted orders. "Fire at will. Don't let her get closer. She's too dangerous." Weapons charged. Engines roared. And then, silence. Velra raised her hand. Not to attack. To speak. Not with words, but with energy. A pulse spread from her fingers. A wave of calm, warm light. It touched the enemy ships. Not their weapons. Their hearts. The pulse carried a feeling most of them had forgotten. Peace. For a moment, no one fired. Even the most hardened commanders hesitated. "What is she doing?" someone asked. "She's not attacking," said another. Then a young alien whispered, "She's showing us what we've become." Inside the command ship, the Empress of Glass stood with clenched fists. "She dares to pity us," she hissed. Her generals stayed silent. The Empress raised her hand. "If they won't destroy her, I will." From her ship, the Empress launched her final weapon, a dark, burning spear of pure energy, the Planet Killer, a weapon made from the core of a sun. It could erase a moon in seconds, and it was headed straight for Velra. Eli saw it coming. "No," he shouted. He didn't think. He jumped from the ship. He flew through the void, reaching her. Velra turned. "Eli, what are you doing?" He wrapped his arms around her. "I won't let you die alone." The spear hit. Light exploded across the stars. The nebula shook. A shockwave rolled through space. For a second, every ship went dark. And then, silence. The kind that makes galaxies hold their breath. Inside the command ships, screens blinked with static. One by one, the ships came back online. Cameras searched the impact zone. Nothing. No movement. No bodies. No girl. No human. Back on Eli's ship, the lights flickered. Then, a soft glow appeared. A shape began to form. First a hand, then a face, then two figures. Velra and Eli. Alive. Changed. Floating in space. Untouched. Velra now shined like a star. Her body was no longer half light, half flesh. She was energy itself. But she held Eli's hand, and his heartbeat was steady. She had shielded him with her own being. She had survived the Planet Killer. Not by killing, but by evolving. She turned toward the enemy fleet and spoke, not with her mouth, but through every ship, every mind, every system. "I am not your enemy. I was created by fear, but I chose love. I was born to destroy, but I choose to protect. You fear what I am, because you fear change. But change is already here, and I am proof that it can be beautiful." In the Empress's ship, silence filled the room. Her generals looked at her. One by one, they stepped back. She shouted, "Traitors, she's tricking you." But no one moved. The war was over, not because Velra had won, but because she had shown them a future without fear. And fear could no longer control them. Velra returned to the ship with Eli. He sat down, weak but smiling. "You did it," he whispered. "No," Velra said, sitting beside him. "We did." In the days that followed, the galaxy slowly changed. The fleets backed away. Peace talks began. Scientists stopped building weapons and started building hope. Velra became a symbol, not of power, but of peace. And Eli, he stayed by her side, the human who touched the untouchable and survived. Because he never saw her as a monster. He saw her as someone worth saving. And in doing so, he helped her save the world. A human's heart saved her world. The war was over. No battles. No fire. No screaming. It ended with a heartbeat. Not a soldier's. Not a weapon's. But a human's. Velra stood on a quiet hilltop under two suns. The wind touched her skin, warm and gentle. Her long black hair, once dulled in a prison cell, now danced freely. Her eyes, once weapons, now held something softer. Light. Peace. Love. Behind her stretched green fields, cities being rebuilt, and children laughing. Some alien, some human. A new world was beginning. But not everyone understood how it happened. So, for the first time, Velra decided to tell the story. Her story. She stood on a stage made of polished stone in front of thousands. Leaders, warriors, and even former enemies. Eli sat in the front row. He looked at her, not as a legend, but as her. The girl he met in a dark cell. The girl he touched when no one else dared. The girl he believed in. Velra spoke. Her voice was calm. "I was made in a lab, not born in a home. I was built to end wars. A living weapon. My creators feared pain. So they gave me the power to destroy anything I touched. I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose it. Everyone who touched me died." She looked at the crowd. And so, no one touched me. I was alone. She paused, eyes lowered, until a human named Eli was thrown into my cell. He didn't believe the stories. He touched me. I waited for him to die. But he didn't. Gasps echoed across the crowd. Even now, they couldn't believe it. Some had studied her. Some had hunted her. Many had feared her, but none had understood her. Until that moment. Velra continued. He was kind to me. Not because he wanted something, but because he believed I was more than a weapon. His touch didn't just change me. It awakened something. She smiled gently. A choice. To feel. To think. To love. In the crowd, old generals who once aimed guns at her now lowered their heads in shame. A child leaned close to her alien mother and whispered, "She's not scary at all." Velra's voice grew stronger. You built me to win wars. But I chose to end them. You made me strong. But I chose to be gentle. You told me I was not alive. But I chose to live. She stepped down from the stage and walked straight to Eli. He stood up slowly. She reached out her hand. And this time, she didn't fear what would happen. She knew. He took it. They stood together, hand in hand. And the crowd rose, one by one. Not with fear, not with applause, but with respect. Later that night, the stars were quiet again. Eli and Velra sat on a small porch outside their ship, looking up at the galaxy they helped change. Do you ever miss who you used to be? Eli asked. Velra thought for a moment. No, she said softly, because who I was didn't know who I could become. Eli smiled. You became something amazing. She looked at him. You helped me. I just believed in you, he replied. She leaned against his shoulder. And that, she whispered, was the one thing no one else ever gave me. From that day on, people told stories. They called Velra many things. The untouchable girl, the weapon who chose love, the light bringer, but the name she liked most, Velra, just Velra. Because for the first time, that was enough. And Eli, he never wanted fame. He never asked for medals. He only stayed by her side, because he didn't see a god or a monster or a legend. He saw his friend, his partner, his home. And she saw the same in him. Across the galaxy, others began to change too. Old enemies spoke to each other. New schools taught peace, not fear. And somewhere, deep in a new lab, a scientist whispered, maybe next time, we should build with love first. One day, a little girl with blue skin asked Velra, will I ever be strong like you? Velra smiled and knelt beside her. You already are. How do you know? The girl asked. Velra touched her hand gently. Because you're still here. And you still care. The wind blew softly through the stars. And for the first time in history, the galaxy wasn't afraid of a touch. She was deadly to every alien. But the human touched her and reminded her she was beautiful. Together, they saved a galaxy, not with power, but with a heart that refused to give up.